All right, so just as a reminder, at the bottom of the, whoops, let's see here. At the bottom of the screen, for those on Zoom, you can click on the participant box and you'll see a list of people who are there. Also, when our speaker asks, if she asks you questions, if you'll use the yes, no buttons at the very bottom, that would be really appreciated. At the very top of the Zoom screen, there is a place for to view different options. There's a speaker view and a gallery view, and those are represented down at the very bottom. On the lower left-hand corner is the speaker view, and the lower right is the gallery view. Please choose whatever one works for you the best. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and on the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, and if you post a comment in the chat box or have your microphone or camera on, you give consent for your comments, name, information, and pictures to appear. For those of you who are on Zoom, as far as chatting and being able to ask us questions, if you're on Zoom, please at the very bottom of the screen, click on the chat box, which is that blue arrow. For those of you on Facebook, please just enter your question into the comment box, and I'm monitoring that and we'll be glad to answer those questions. We will review 2 or 3 resumes at the end of this session, depending on how much time we have today. You can submit your resume by using the little chat box. For those on Zoom, click on the little file button and you can upload your resume to it. Please note that you may want to delete your header information so that we don't show all that information on Facebook and that stuff's there. You can delete your phone number and any of your contact information, or just make it all X's, or become Brad Pitt or Angelina Jolie, whoever you'd like to become. You can change your resume. So just please remember, your information will be published on Facebook and YouTube for others to see. Well, good afternoon. My name is Jeff Morris. I founded Career DFW back in 2008 to help the unemployed in the DFW area. I also invented, or came up with, CareerUSA.org in 2012 after a visit to the White House and finding out that there really was no other website like Career DFW in the country. So I thought, let's help people outside the DFW area. I also lead and facilitate the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. I've been doing that since 2007. And I'm a member, and have been a member of the PIT crew, the practice interview team, since 2016. Our speaker today is Janice Hendricks. I'll let her explain all those initials after her name. So Janice, I'll let you take it away. Yep, you need to unmute your mic. There we go.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Jeff, and welcome to everyone to our Effective Resume. As Jeff shared, my name is Janice Hendricks, and I worked for 20 years in the insurance industry. So I hold my certified property and casualty underwriting, as well as my Scrum Master and my Six Sigma Green Belt. So, and working on some more initials after my name. So I too am currently a job seeker. So we'll get to sharing my screen here.
There you go.
Okay. So I'll click through a couple of these since Jeff has already kind of shared. For those who are participating in Zoom, we'll be utilizing the participants bar. So the first question, real quick, to make sure that we're coming through loud and clear, is if you could check yes or no if you're hearing us. See some yeses, so that's great. And chat function, just make sure you've got the everyone checked so that we can all see the conversation that's going on. And to check with the chat feature, just pop in there and let us know if you sought any advice from a professional recruiter, or hiring manager, or if you've attended this session before. So go ahead and check yes or no. See a few yeses in there. Okay. No? I've attended several recent meetings. Okay, good. It's always good to have an extra set of eyes other than your own looking. So just to introduce myself, as Jeff shared, my name is Janice Hendricks. I have over 20 years of experience as a hiring manager. I've hired and enrolled in departments including accounting, finance, claims operations, and administratively. I've also hired in roles from entry level to mid-level management. As I shared, I have over 20 years of experience in the property and casualty industry. I worked for a Fortune 50 company. And I have the pleasure, along with Jeff and Carol, to serve as a Dallas Pit Crew panelist. I've done that for about a year now. So definitely encourage you, if you are looking for interview experience, to check out the Dallas Pit Crew. Today's agenda, we'll go through and we'll talk a little bit about the applicant tracking system. We'll talk about common resume mistakes, key components of a resume, and we'll do Q&A. As Jeff shared, we are monitoring the Facebook feed as well as the Zoom chat. So if you have any questions or comments, please utilize those features. We will try to address as much as we can during the conversation, as we want this to be as beneficial to you as possible. And for the second part of our agenda, we'll review a sample resume. If anyone wants us to review that today, if you want to volunteer, go ahead and pop that into the chat box, and we will get that so that we can review that information for you. Okay. Looking at the applicant tracking system, the applicant tracking system, really what it does, and we've all faced them, there are many different versions. And what they do is they parse the information. So when you upload your resume, what you'll see is it'll fill in the boxes. So it fills in name, it fills in, your work experience. And once it's parsing, one thing you always want to make sure you do is you want to make sure that you're reviewing that information. You want to make sure that it's parsing things correctly. And a couple applicant tracking systems that we've seen that are fairly common are like iCIMS or JobVite. So there are several out there, but they all pretty much function the same way. When you're looking at the applicant tracking systems really like vanilla. So they're not looking for special characters or formatting in your resume. So even things like underline, if you're using a bulleted system, a bulleted information, bulleted list, you want to make sure that you're using just the plain bullet or maybe even just a dash. So none of those fancy arrowheads or whatever other designs you might want to do. Those are great for the resume you may be passing to someone by hand, but the ATS system is really looking for just true basic information and formatting. And we'll talk about the formatting a little bit further on in the presentation. Keywords are important as you are updating your information on your resume to get through the applicant tracking system. It is very important that you're looking for what's in the job description, what keywords are they looking for. And so, whether it's talking about agile or it's talking about access, just making sure that you point out those skills in the resumes, because the applicant tracking system is trying to match what you've put in your resume to what the system is looking, what the system has been told to look for to make sure that you're a good candidate. A couple ways to look for and help through matching those keyword matches. Jobscan.co. I'm not sure how many of you have used that, but Jobscan.co, and it's truly .co. It offers, I think, 5 reviews a month that you can utilize for free. And you can pop in your resume along with the job description, and it will tell you how close of a match you are from a keyword standpoint. So it will tell you if you're 50%, if you're 80%, If you're 95%, so it will tell you whether you're going to match what the applicant tracking system is looking for. Another one that is a great one that I tend to use is tagcrowd.com. Once I ran out of my jobscan.co, I like to use TagCrowd, and I don't know how many of you have used that, but TagCrowd is, if you've ever seen that feature or picture where people have the words and some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller, what they've done is they've placed all of those words into TagCrowd, and what TagCrowd does then is adjust the size of the words based upon how many times it appears. So it's based upon its frequency, and then it will align that and it will create a picture. It will do all kinds of things for you. So TagCrowd is also helpful because you can actually pop the job description into TagCrowd, and it too will tell you, okay, these are the words that seem to be used more often. So you want to take out, you know, the us, the thes, the common ones, but you will see that it will definitely pull forth for you if it's customer service or what's the key things that they're looking for in that resume. When you're for the ATS system, you want to make sure that as a resume attachment, that you are attaching it based upon what the system can handle. So if the system tells you that it's looking for a Word doc, and a .pdf isn't used, then you don't want to update a PDF because the system's not going to take that through. It doesn't know what to do with it. PDF is always the best option if it's available, just because it's going to keep your formatting. But again, just make sure that you're attaching your resume based upon what the system is telling you that it can handle. I'm a fan of cover letters. I know it varies from recruiter to hiring manager about how they feel about cover letters. I am like I said, I'm a fan of cover letters. I think it just gives you a chance to truly express who you are relative to the fit for the job, not only about your skills. But I wouldn't spend that much time on a cover letter. You just want it enough to be able to say how you fit. I found when I was a hiring manager that I looked at cover letters really when I was trying to decide between a couple qualified candidates. Usually it was the cover letter that I then went to really make that decision. And sometimes it wasn't even reading the cover letter. It was just the fact if one candidate had a cover letter and the other candidate didn't make the effort. Then I felt like, okay, this candidate went the extra mile to show that this is the position that they want. Any questions, comments thus far? Okay. Some guidance here from the professional career coaches about your resume. Just make sure it's easy to read. Make sure that there's enough white space. You know, when you're reading a book, if you had a book that had the same information in it, content information in it, and one of them had 50 pages and one of them had 2 pages, which one are you going to read? And so you kind of have to think about that same thing from the reader. So just making sure that there's enough white space so that it's readable. Make sure that it's free of spelling and punctuation and grammatical errors. And that's where an extra set of eyes comes into play. Just having someone else kind of take a look. Spell out acronyms. I know that there are, you know, if you work in an industry, or I recently met with someone who was interviewing for a position within their own company. And acronyms can even be different within your own company in different departments. So save the reader the time and the effort and spell out the acronym first. I know for this person, they had spent some time in the accounting department, and an RFP was a request for pay for them. I am studying for my project management, and an RFP is a request for proposal. So again, just clarity for the reader. And focus your resume on skills that are related. If you're like me, where you're in the middle of your work career, you've done a lot of great things, and you want to share all of those great things. However, for the recruiter, for the hiring manager, they're really looking for what are the great things you can do for them in the job you're applying for. So really make sure that you're targeting your resume for that job. And one way to do that is to make sure that you're including qualitative and quantitative accomplishments. And we'll discuss that a little further in the review, in this discussion as well, but just make sure that you're talking about results, not just about what duties you did, but really what you accomplished. They say the greatest indicator of future performance is past performance. So this is your opportunity to share for those who are reviewing and who are hiring what you can do for them. Because again, remember that your resume should be written from the perspective of telling your potential employee, the new employer, what you bring and what you can do for them. And as I shared earlier, when you're looking at your resume for ATS, you want to make sure no graphics, no pictures, no underlines, no special characters. Really ATS, again, think vanilla. If you want to use the graphics, pictures, you may utilize those for the resume you're presenting to someone, or maybe you have a bio, personal bio you want to share as you're meeting with people. And those are the times where you can get a little fancier and show your personality a little bit more. And someone said, telling my story is what I'm working on to blend it for video rather than the movies. Yep. Definitely, you definitely want it to be a condensed version. Okay. So again, the goal of a good resume is that you want to make it easy for the ATS system as well as whoever is reviewing it to determine you're a good match for the position. Your goal is really to get in for that interview. So in doing that, there is a pretty common format, and we'll go through that format of what's typical, what the ATS systems are looking for, as well as what those reviewing your resume are looking for. Let's talk about, get you guys a little engaged too, and not just me talking. What's a good overall length for a resume? Drop in the chat box what you think a good length for a resume is. Is it 5 pages, 13 pages? Seeing a lot of 2 pages. And you're right. Typically the length, the magic length is 2 pages. Jeff and I will share that it depends. That if you are applying for a government role, if you are in academia, and I just worked with someone who was applying for a C-suite role. So there are definitely occasions where you need more than 2 pages. Talking about the number of years, what are the years? How many years of experience do you think you include on your resume? Drop that in the chat. The 20, I see 10, I see all of them. And the wonderful thing is you're all right. It really depends on what job you're applying for and what time, at what point in your career you obtained those skills in order to be able to be competitive for the job you're applying for. I know for myself, I include all of the years that I worked, but it's still 2 pages. And I think that's the key. I think the key is to be able to really hone in again on what that ATS system and recruiter are looking for. And so if you have to go back a few years in order to share that you have that experience, that's fine. And we'll talk about a couple ways that you can actually include that. One way is that you can truly show all of the years of experience, and just really, limit the number of bullet points and really hit the high points for those jobs. Excuse me. Another thing that you can do is to just show the 10 years. If all of your experience, all the experience that you need for that position you're interviewing for happened within the last 10 years, definitely focus on those last 10 years. Or you may include, the last 10 and then include a section that is for, relevant other experience. And you may not, expound too much on that other experience other than to provide the role, the company, the years that happened, just so that you can speak to it in your resume and then speak to it in the interview that, hey, I've already done that and here's when that happened. There are definitely some common resume mistakes that occur. And as you'll see, a lot of them align to some of the key points of what's in a good resume. So we've seen spelling and grammatical errors is probably the top mistake that happens on every resume, or at least for every posting. So just make sure that, your spelling, that if you, say that you're detail oriented, the last thing you want to happen is to go through your resume and there's a formatting or a spelling or a grammatical error. So just make sure that. Using an unprofessional email address. Because I assist the Fort Worth Career Search Network, I actually upload everyone who attends. Recently, I saw someone who had an email address that was the Crazy Cat Lady. And I'm not sure if she was just using her personal email for Zoom, but that's not really what you want a recruiter or a hiring manager to see. You may love cats, but you may not want to share that with your potential employer right now. Failure to demonstrate and quantify results. As we spoke to before, when you're looking at a good resume, it's not just about the job duties. It's really about the results you achieved, because you want to be able to show your future employer what you can do for them. Another mistake is too many buzzwords or something that's overused. One of the ones in my industry is change agent. Everyone's a change agent. Well, what does that mean? What have you done? So rather than using the word change agent or the buzzword, include that as a result. If you've done something significant, that is definitely a bullet point you want to include in your resume. And the other one is formatting, either or design being too elaborate. So like I said, you've got logos of the companies you've worked for, you've got flowers, you've got, just colors and just way too much. And even for the ATS system, it's definitely too much, but even for some of those that you're going to hand the resume to, just know your audience, basically. Okay. Another thing we kind of talked about was, make sure it's readable. So too much text, using the first person. Your resume should be about you, so you shouldn't need to use first person. And one of those tricks that you will see often is starting your bullet points with a verb. So instead of saying I increased, just say you increased. So another one is making sure you're utilizing the most of your resume real estate. So mentioning references available upon request. Most of the time, your potential employer is not going to ask for resumes until they're at that point where they're ready to make an offer. There are a few. I know someone who just applied for the city of Dallas, and they asked for their references during the screening interview, but wait for them to ask for your references. Like I said, save the real estate on your resume for more valuable things. The other is not customizing to match the job description. So making sure that your resume and the job description and the job title all match. So You don't want to have a resume where you're looking for, your resume says business analyst and the job is looking for an operations manager. And your job reads as, your resume reads like you're applying for a business analyst. So you just want to make sure that you're customizing and that when you're applying, that everything that you're putting forth all presents the same picture. Okay, and then not including your LinkedIn address. There is an expectation, I think it's pretty consistent now, that hiring managers, recruiters, all are looking out at LinkedIn to at least get a glimpse of you before they're recruited, before they have that first conversation. And most of us, if you're a job seeker, you should be looking out at LinkedIn at them too. So you have an idea and you can connect and make that rapport. Jeff, would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go through the key components of the resume. So we'll go through all the ones here and you'll see that some of them are optional and we'll talk about why they're optional. So looking at your heading, you obviously want, this is where you're going to make it as easy as possible for the recruiter, the hiring manager to contact you once they see that you are the fit, you are the fabulous candidate for this job, and they're going to look to hire you. So including your name, your phone number, your email address, and again, it's going to be a professional email address, something hopefully as close to your name as possible. But if you can't get close to your name, something that's going to definitely present you in a professional light. And your LinkedIn, and we'll talk about LinkedIn. Your LinkedIn should have a URL that is as close to your name as possible, should be personalized. So just make sure, you know, there is an option to go into LinkedIn and edit your URL. So you'll want to make sure that you'll go in and you take that. LinkedIn usually puts like some extraneous numbers and letters after your name. So you'll just want to go in and take those out. Including your address, there's no need to include a physical address. You can just include the city and state and zip code. They're really not going to send you anything by mail. And so there's really, save that again, saving the real estate on your resume for other critical information that you can provide. Any questions?
Carol, Janice, just by the way, I've got 2 resumes that people have sent me. So there's none in the chat box, but I already have the 2 resumes that we'll look at a little bit later.
Okay, great. And then looking at the summary on your profile, this is a chance for you to present who you are based upon what the job description is. So you'll include the business analyst if you're applying for a business analyst, and this is, you know, what the job title is, and then you'll include key areas of, you know, who you are, what you bring to the table, and areas of expertise. As a job seeker, this is often the area that you're going to modify the most for any application you're doing, because you're going to modify it for the job title. You may modify the areas of expertise, again, and that is based upon what you see in the job description. So if the job description says that they want an expert in Java, that's exact, and you are an expert in Java, this is exactly where you would update the areas of expertise, and you may add that expert of Java in this area.
And let me just throw one little thing in here, that if I happen to have you on the practice interview team and this is your resume, if I ask you what are your top 3 areas of expertise, they better be either these top 3 here or these 3 right here, because if you go and you say, well, customer facing roles is my top 3, it's like, well, that's, you know, you make them so that we know where they are. So, you know, make your top 3 your top 3.
Exactly. Agree. Thanks, Jeff. Key accomplishments is one of those optional areas. You typically see it like for recruiters, sales, business development. So those roles where they have some pretty targeted results that they can show that they've accomplished. And when they're interviewing for those roles, they want to be able to highlight those things. So this is an area where you want to, again, highlight, you hear that recruiters, 6 seconds to look at a resume. So this key accomplishment allows you to put your key, those results that you really want them to focus on at the top portion of your resume, in that real estate that that they're going to review in that 6 seconds. And I see, thank you, Jeff. Jeff has popped into the chat sample resume and cover letter. And talking about professional experience, and when we speak the format, this is where most ATS and recruiters are looking for a chronological order. There are some exceptions when you may not use a chronological order. If you are looking to change careers, change industries, you may do something a little different. I will share that both Carol and I are available if you find yourself in that position and would like some additional conversation around that, because today we will focus more on the chronological. But on the chronological, you want to make sure that it's easy to read, right? And it should follow with your most recent job experience first, and then move on to and continue in that order. Make sure that your verb tense is parallel to whether you are currently in the job or this is a past job. If you're currently in the job, you will be using present tense. If you had the job and are no longer in the role, you'll use past tense. For your professional experience, you want to limit your bullets 5 to 8. And like I said, if you are showing all of your job experience, you may limit that to more like 3, just to get them all, all of your jobs in there. But again, you just want to make sure that it's readable. Your bullet point should really be no more than a couple lines for each bullet point. So really focus in and be clear and concise on what's the result, what you want the reader to take away. And again, make it easy for the reader. This is where you have the opportunity to drive what information you want them to take away. So again, clear, concise, and to the point, and focused on results. And again, making sure that this doesn't read like a job description. It should be results-based.
And each one of those bullet points become your star story or your raw story, whatever it is. So that if I were to ask you about any one of those bullet points, you need to have your 60-second, 90-second answer to tell me, explain about it.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about, making sure you focus on results. So if you're interviewing, if you're applying for a role and they want to know if you developed Visual Basic programs, this bullet point is a great bullet point, but it just tells me that you at least have the basic skills for the job you're applying for. So it leads me as the recruiter, the hiring manager who's reviewing this bullet point, if it was on a resume, to ask, so what? Okay, so now you meet the job requirements, but if everyone who's applying meets the same job requirements, you've just put yourself on the same level playing field. So how do you change that? It's by adding the results. So if really what you did, by developing these Visual Basic programs, is that you reduce the data migration time by 90%, you eliminated errors, and you increase stockholder confidence, that's what's important to me. It's important to me as a recruiter, as a hiring manager, that you understand why you did what you did and the results of what you obtained. And so by then putting the results first, you already captured my attention. I know that you were able to reduce data, the data migration time, you eliminated errors, and increase stakeholder confidence by developing the Visual Basic programs to automate. So You've still said that you have the skills, right, to develop visual basic programs, but now you've impressed me. Now you've got my attention because you shared with me what you can do because you have those skills. Okay. If you find yourself like me, where you spend a little time at one company and you've had multiple roles at that one company, this is a great way to show that information on your resume, and you definitely want to make sure that you include that information on your resume. Because by including it on your resume, what you do is you already show to the recruiter, to the hiring manager, without even spoken one word in a screening interview, that you have commitment, you have longevity, you have learning agility to be able to progress to different roles, and all of that without saying a word. So take full advantage of it. So you'll see off to the side that you'll see that across from the company name, state, you'll see where there's years. And you'll want to include all the time period that you've spent at that organization. And then that's when you'll start speaking to the roles, and then whether it's in parentheses, or I've seen where others want to align the dates, either is fine, showing the time you spent in that given role. And again, when you're using dates, just make sure your dates are consistent. So if you use month and year, that you are consistently using month and year throughout your resume. If you use year to year, then use year to year consistently throughout your resume. So just like verbs, you want to make sure the dates are consistent as well. Okay. And you know, I know as times have changed, and with everything going on right now, it'll be interesting to see what other companies now will be formerly known as, unfortunately, given our current climate. But often on your resume, you know, you run into people where they'll need to, you know, I worked for, I know someone who worked for a regional insurance carrier that is still a big, huge name within their region, their geographic area, but it was acquired by Liberty Mutual. And so as she was updating her resume, what she did was actually choose the second bullet point on our screen, where she gave the old name of the company and said it was acquired by Liberty Mutual, because in her region, that smaller company was meant more to any employers in the area than Liberty Mutual. And so I think you have to do what is best and what you know for your industry, whether you use the current name and say it was formerly known as, or you use the prior name and say it was acquired by. There's definitely a way to include that information in your resume.
And it even takes our author says, how would you notate a resume if there's been 2 to 3 company buyouts and you've had the same position? Do the exact same thing. You know, yep. So-and-so company acquired by so-and-so company, acquired by so-and-so company. I mean, take the company name, I guess that's the name brand that everybody would know, and then just sort of explain how that is or what the current name is.
Exactly. For education and software skills, getting towards the bottom of your resume, the ATS system, your recruiters are looking for that education. Your degrees, whether it's bachelor's, PhD, depends on what they're looking for, right? Depends on what the job description asks for. And as far as the date of when you obtained your degree, my advice is if you graduated within the last 5 years, include the date. If it's been more than 5 years, don't include it. If my advice is as well that if you went to a school and you did not obtain your degree, don't say that you have a degree. You can say you attended, but don't indicate that you actually have a degree. Again, you're presenting this and you want to present yourself in the best light. And the one thing you want to always do in your resume is to be honest. And so like when Jeff was talking about the bullet points, you want to make sure that your bullet points, the education, everything else that you present is accurate and true so that you can speak to it. And so, is there a lot of, if I ask you the question about it and you can't explain to me exactly what happened, definitely makes me question whether or not you were actually part of that process. Software skills is another area where you can make that adjustment depending upon what the job description asks. So, like I said, if they're looking for, if it says, they're looking for someone with Microsoft Office skills, you can put Microsoft Office. If they're looking for a specific, like Visual Basic or Java, this is where you can include that list as well. Okay. So we'll talk about probably what's one of the most important critical steps I feel whenever you're getting ready to apply for a job, and that is to take the job description and your resume and do some matching to make sure from a keyword standpoint, from a skills standpoint, that the resume that you're presenting shows that you have the skills and abilities to do the job that you're applying for. So you'll see things like, where it says innovative and improve processes, agile, Scrum. Well, you will want to make sure that you are going through and, whether it's by hand, whether you put that drop that into a Word doc and you've done like what's done on the screen where you highlight it, you want to take the time to make sure you go through and really parse out what's the critical pieces of this job description that I need to make sure I address. And you want to address them exactly the way that they appear in the job description. The ATS system is AI, so it's only as smart as the information that somebody programmed into it. And so even little things like where it says cross-functionally in the job description, but you put cross-functional in your resume may not get you credit. So just making sure that what it says in the job description is actually what you put in your resume. Questions?
All right, well, we only have just a few more. We only have about 6 minutes here. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of the resumes here that I happen to have. So here's our first resume, Christina's resume. I'll let any comments you want to make as
Yep, so as Jeff scrolls through, and if you guys want to pop anything in the chat that you see, the first thing I see is great for white space. I mean, it appears to be very readable. Information is pretty much where I would expect it to be and where someone reviewing it's going to look for it to be.
Now, sort of odd, this went to 4 pages, and it probably went to 4 pages because my word processing or my printer is going to format things a little bit differently. So this is a good reason why when you send a resume, sometimes you probably want to send it as a PDF file. That way it looks exactly like your resume looks.
Yeah, because my question is your information, her page information in a header, because that's the other thing about, yep, it is. So one other point about your ATS systems, it does not read anything that is in a header or a footer. And sometimes some ATS systems will actually, if it gets to a page that has a header, it will stop reading anything. So I would say definitely don't put anything in a header and a footer just to make sure that it's read. Also your professional summary, not really reading it, but just the number of lines. I would say, again, you just want to get it to maybe 3, 4. So really take a look at what you've got in there. Maybe just make some adjustments. You're gonna, like, I see already where it says acquired a BA in English. You're gonna have that information down in your English, in your education section. So some real estate that you could gain back easily.
The other thing I would say is, I don't know if you need to, I would move the locations next to the company name, and I don't think I would have them all capitalized like that. That's sort of screaming out and trying to draw my attention, but that's not the important stuff. The important stuff is down here, actually in, the bullet points are the more important things.
Right.
And then, if you download the sample resume that we send out, we show that the date, the location is, next to the name of the company. All right, let's quickly go look at the second one I have here. Let's see what happens here. Let me go pick another. I have another one to show. Make it a little bit bigger here for you. All right, so here's the second one. This one is only 2 pages, a lot more white space.
Mm-hmm. This one, you may actually even want to add a few more bullets. I see some numbers in there. So that's always good. Numbers are always catchy. As you can see, it's one thing, because they're different. So it's something your eye automatically picks up. Just some consistency in dates. I see like that one, yeah. Or I see up, there was where he's got in parentheses a virtual role, maybe.
Yeah, and also you've got April in here. So, I mean, you could just, you got to add the months or not add the months. Don't do both.
Right, right.
And once again, you have full year and you have, go ahead and make all the years full, make it consistent for everything. And here also. Any other comments real quick? Because we're just about out of time.
Nope. Any other comments? Were there any comments from the chat box from the attendees? None that I see.
All right.
Thank you.
Great. Well, Janice, thank you very, very much. Just as a reminder, join us tomorrow morning at 9:30, the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. We'll be doing open forum. If you've got questions about your job search, we'll have some answers. So please join us tomorrow morning at 9:30. Next week, programming, so you can sort of see what's going on already. At 1 o'clock on Tuesday, LinkedIn Tuesdays, we're going to have Terry Sullivan with us. People love to hear Terry talk about how to use LinkedIn. So please join us on Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Tuesday at 3 o'clock, the Frisco Career Transition Workshop. We'll be talking, this is a very interesting topic, the new salary and negotiation strategies during COVID-19. So how to negotiate. We've been talking with some people who've landed in the last 6 to 8 weeks and how their process is. So that'll be a very interesting topic. And then on Wednesday, Interviewing Wednesdays, Mark and Walt will be talking about asking questions, how to ask questions and what you should talk about. So please join us, all those information on Zoom or on our Facebook page. Check the Career FW calendar for all that information. I'll skip this part since we're sort of out of time. So don't forget, there's what the calendar looks like, that's the webinar page with everything you can do. You click on something, it'll open up and give you all the details on how to join that webinar meeting. Just as a reminder, the sessions are recorded. We'll be on the Career FW Facebook page and on the Career USA YouTube channel shortly. Please be sure to check both pages. Here's the Facebook page. If you go to our Facebook page, please follow us. If you do that, what will happen is when we go live, you'll get an alert on your phone or however you're following us. And you'll be able to see what we're doing. Where the blue arrow is, all the videos are located right there, and I have them all grouped together so you can see all the resume things together, all the interviewing videos together to make it easy to view. On the YouTube channel, it looks like this, and if you click on playlist, it'll show you, if you click the view playlist where you see the red arrow, up will come a list, and you'll be able to see all the past events that we've got recorded, so you can go back and see what we've talked about. So just as a reminder, Career DFW is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. All of our speakers, including Janice, who did a great job today, and myself, I'm a volunteer. We're all volunteers. We're just here to help you, the unemployed, help find you success in your next opportunity. Please remember that we survive on donations. It helps pay for everything we're doing. When you land your next opportunity, I hope that you will consider making a donation so that we can continue to do what we're doing. And if your company happens to offer matching funds, please look up Career DFW. Let your donation double in value. If you don't see our name on your list, please let me know, and I will get our name on the list. So thank you very much for joining us today. There's another event. Walt Glass is actually going to be doing an interview session with Career Care. It will be coming up here at 2 o'clock. So you can click on the link and find that. And for those of you on Facebook, he will be on Facebook Live starting probably in just about 3 or 4 minutes. And you'll be able to follow that starting at 2 o'clock. So thank you all very much for being with us. We'll see everybody next week or at our next event.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, everyone.